Welcome to the discussion video on relevant costing and decision making under the CIPALI board subject Management Advisory Services and the course Strategic Business Analysis. Decision making on relevant cost concepts is important because strategic managers analyze alternatives, and it is only the strategic managers who are responsible in making these major decisions for the organization. So let us take a look, take an evaluation on how decisions are made based on the facts, the relevant facts on alternatives. So what is decision making? This is the process of choosing a course of action from at least two alternatives. So it can be three, four, or more than two alternatives na tinitingnan ng strategic managers. So ano ba itong mga cases na ito? One, yung acceptance or rejection of a special order or a business proposal. So since our focus of attention is the decisions made by strategic managers or those that at those managers at the top level of the organization. These are major decisions for the organization. Next, if a product line will be sell as is, or it should be processed further. Next, if you will make or buy a part, are you going to insource the product, the material, or to outsource the material to buy a part or to make a part or sub-assembly or a product line? Whether you will continue operating a business segment when you see that a business segment uh, has been unfavorably performing, are you going to continue it or to close it merely because of the apparent loss of that business segment? So dapat pag-aralan natin kung ano yung mga costs associated to that at ano yung mga facts before we decide on this alternative. So these are uh, computed by accountants, but these are to be decided by strategic managers o yung top level managers. Kumbaga, recommendatory functions itong mga accountants based on the analysis, careful analysis, evaluation, and study of the facts na natutunan mo on your you incorporate cost accounting, managerial accounting concepts, and strategic business analysis concepts. Next, the concept of product combination, the utilization of scarce resources or the limited resources, and the change in the profit factors in cost, volume, profit analysis. In long-term cases naman, we look at capital investment decisions. So, in these cases, dito na papasok yung capital budgeting decisions, the net present value, the profitability index, and the payback period, and among others. So we look at transactions for the short-term and non-routine cases in analyzing this. So before we proceed with each of these items ng each cases, we have to be familiar with the terminologies used in the decision making and in relevant cost analysis or the differential cost analysis in some references or books. When we say relevant costs, these are future costs that are expected to be different between or among alternatives. So may dalawang criteria before we say that a cost is relevant. One, it is future. It is future. And then it vary. It is different between alternatives. So it is future and it vary between alternatives. Ibig sabihin, kapag pinili mo yung alternative A, ganito ang cost, at kapag pinili mo yung alternative B, ganito yung cost. So magkaiba siya. So dapat yun yung orientation mo when you are analyzing whether a cost is relevant or not. One, it is future, and then second, it is different between alternatives or it vary between alternatives. Next, the word differential cost. What does it mean? These are increases or increments or decreases or decrements in total cost that result from selecting one alternative instead of another. So when you choose one alternative in lieu of the other, you can compute for the differential cost. So, the difference or the decreases or increments dun sa cost nila. Yung pagkakaiba lang. Kaya siya differential. Next, avoidable cost, costs that will be saved or those that will not be incurred if a certain decision is made. So this cost is relevant because it is future and it varies between alternatives. It is different between alternatives. So, sa madaling salita, when we say avoidable cost, when you choose this alternative, you will be avoiding or maiiwasan mo mag-incur ng ganitong cost. Ito yung cost na matitipid mo kung pipiliin mo yung isang alternative. So, kaya siya avoidable cost. Next, sunk cost, these are irrelevant. Diba, ang sabi natin kanina, when we say relevant cost, these are future costs. So this is the opposite, the direct opposite of future costs. These are past costs. Costs that are incurred already and cannot be avoided regardless of what decision is made. So dahil nga na-incur mo na yan already, this is a past cost. Wala ka nang magagawa. For example, in a equipment replacement decision, kung i-retain mo ba itong old equipment o bibili ka ng bagong equipment, one good example of a sunk cost is the carrying amount of the old equipment kasi you cannot avoid it and this is already a past cost kasi na-incur mo na yan noong in the past. So wala na yang bearing on the decision making. So those are classified as sunk costs. So there are items in the SIPALE board exam or during the reviews, it will be emphasized that the sunk costs can be asked in a direct problem. So pwedeng tanungin what is the amount of the sunk cost for this particular scenario or case. Ganun. So you have to be familiar with this. Next, the out-of-pocket costs that will require expenditure of cash or incurrence of a liability as a consequence of a management decision. So this is relevant. So out-of-pocket costs, ibig lang sabihin nito, kapag you choose one alternative, kailangan mong gumastos ng ganitong amount. So this is relevant in the decision making. Kasi kung hindi mo pipiliin yung alternative na yun, hindi ka naman mag-i-incur ng ganoong out-of-pocket cost. Next, the opportunity cost. In your economics, you have discussed this, the benefit forgone. So when these are the income sacrifice or forgone when a certain alternative is chosen over another. So this is relevant in the decision making for strategic managers. Kung pipiliin mo itong ganitong alternative, ano ba yung benefit doon sa isang alternative na nawala sa'yo? So it should be incorporated in your decision making and it is part of your computation. Let's proceed more. The joint costs. These are costs incurred in simultaneously manufacturing two or more joint products. So, the joint costs, normally you will encounter this in a sell at split of point or process further cases. So, merong mga product or raw materials that can be sold at their present status or it can be processed further. So, merong mga raw material na gano'n na pwedeng ibenta na at present condition or pwedeng i-process further pa para tumaas yung market value. So, ano yung sinasabing joint cost dyan? Yun yung cost ng both two or more products that are difficult to identify individually as separate types of products until the products reach a certain processing stage known as the split of point. So this is irrelevant. Bakit? Because it does not vary between alternatives kasi magkakasama. Yung cost na yun will be incurred before the split of points. So, bago pa i-process further or bago pa siya ibenta, na-incur na yung cost na yun. Okay. So, that is the split of point. Yung point kung saan you decide whether you process further or you sell sell at the market value now. Next, the further processing cost. So, ito naman yon yung when you decided to process a product further or a raw material further kasi nakita mo na mas viable or mas marketable siya or mas malaki ang kikitain mo kapag pinrocess further mo yung particular material. So, kailangan merong further processing cost na naka-associate doon. Hindi pwedeng revenue lang or hindi pwedeng kita lang ang kapalit when you process further. So you have to analyze whether the revenue, the incremental revenue on processing it will be greater than the incremental cost of processing that raw material. So this is relevant in your decision making. So there are other items such as the bottleneck resources. So any resource or operation where the capacity is less than the demand placed upon it. Uh, so kapag naririnig natin when we say the bottleneck, this causes delays on the operations kasi nga yung capacity is less than the demand placed on it. Mas marami yung demand o mas marami ang nangangailangan ng ganitong raw material or item pero kung ganito lang mas maliit ang yung capacity, so ibig sabihin hindi mo maibibigay, maisusupply because of the lesser capacity. Next, the postponable cost that may be deferred or shifted to a future date or period of time without adversely affecting current operations. So this is self-explainable. Imputed cost, assumed or hypothetical cost representing the cost or value of a resource that is utilized for a specific purpose. Okay. So we have to analyze, so ito na yung mga conditions natin. The make or buy decision, the accept or reject a proposal or order, continue or shut down a business segment. So when we are on a make or buy analysis, so when you are analyzing problems, you have to identify first whether anong klaseng scenario ba ito. If you are the accountant or you are the strategic managers, you have to analyze kung anong klaseng transaction ito. When it is a make or buy analysis, ang sabi, we choose the option that involves the lower cost. In most cases, the fixed costs are irrelevant unless it can be avoided. Consider opportunity cost, if any. So, kung saan ka mas makakamura, yun daw ang piliin mo. And in most cases, irrelevant ang fixed cost. So kapag sinabing avoidable yung fixed cost, so magiging relevant na siya. Accept or reject a special order. So you accept a special order when the revenue or the additional revenue exceeds the additional cost. Kung mas mataas yung magiging additional revenue mo kasi sa additional cost mo, then you proceed with the special order. However, provided that the regular market will not be affected because in most cases of the problems, papahirapan ka niyan. So, there are problems in which kapag inaccept mo yung special order, mapapabayaan mo na yung regular customers mo, yung regular order sa'yo. So, you have to compute for the opportunity cost associated with those transactions. In most cases, the fixed costs are irrelevant. Okay. Unless it is specified that it is avoidable. Continue or shut down a segment. Continue. I-continue mo daw yung segment if avoidable revenue is greater than the avoidable cost. Otherwise, consider shutting down the segment. Kasi kung mas malaki yung avoidable cost kesa dun sa avoidable revenue, then, wag mo nang ituloy yung segment na yan. The allocated fixed cost is usually unavoidable. It is considered irrelevant. Okay. So ma-encounter mo itong mga terminologies as avoidable cost, opportunity cost, kaya nga natin siya diniscuss on our previous definition of terms. Sell or process further a product. Process further if the additional revenue from the processing is greater than the further processing cost. So ito yung diniscuss ko na ito kanina. Product combination, the optimization of scarce resources. Identify and measure the constraint on the limited resources. Rank the products according to the highest contribution margin per unit of scarce resources. So we will have a sample problems related to this. Yung kung scarce resources or limited lang yung resources natin, alin ang ipaprioritize nating gawin na raw material or product. change in profit factors or just CVP relationships, yung cost volume profit analysis related to break even. So I think we will not be more dealing more of this because this is a separate topic related to cost accounting. So we will not be dealing more of this because we are looking at the decisions made by top management in relation to major company decisions. So I want you to take note of this because this will guide you as you look into problems related to relevant costing and related to differential costing and related to decision making. All costs are considered avoidable except sunk costs and future costs that do not vary between alternatives. So, tandaan mo, lahat ng costs, ito na lang ang tandaan mo kasi if natandaan mo to, it will guide you all through. All costs are considered avoidable. So, lahat daw, i-consider mo na pwede mo siyang maiwasan. So, kapag pwede mo siyang maiwasan, that is relevant, hindi ba? Except, so meron ka lang dalawang iisipin lagi na exception. One is a sunk cost. Ano ba yung sunk cost? These are past costs. Yung mga costs na na-incur mo na before, na wala nang magiging effect yan ngayon, sa transaction ngayon. So, those are sunk costs. So, kapag sunk costs, yan ay unavoidable. So, hindi yan relevant. So, dapat hindi mo yan kino-consider on your decision making. Second, future costs that do not vary between alternatives. So, kung kanina, basta past costs yan, automatic ay hindi mo na yan i-consider on your decision making. However, if it is a future cost, you have to identify whether the cost, that future cost, will vary between alternatives. Kasi, if it will not vary between alternatives, for example, may operating cost for alternative A, 10,000, and then may operating cost for alternative B, 10,000, is it relevant on your decision making? It is not. Dahil wala naman palang pinag-iba. Whether piliin ko alternative A or alternative B, it will result to a same operating cost. So, ganun ang logic dito. So, if you will go back on our definition of terms related to relevant costs, we say that the relevant costs are future costs and it vary between alternatives. So this is the exact opposite of those definition. Kasi itong sunk cost and future cost that do not vary between alternatives o it is not different between alternatives, hindi yan avoidable, hindi yan relevant. So I want you to take note of this. Because I use this concept when I am reviewing and when I am taking the board exam. This guided me all throughout in analyzing relevant costing problems. So let us try applying the concepts that we have learned. So this is a make or buy case. So U company needs 10,000 units of a certain part to be used in production. If U company buys the part from Me company instead of making it themselves, you could not use the present facilities for another manufacturing activity. 60% of the fixed overhead applied will continue regardless of what decision is made. The following quantitative information is available regarding the situation. Cost to make the part, cost to buy the part. So the requirement is 1, to decide, in deciding whether to make or buy the part, what are used total relevant costs to make the part, and A, and B, I think B ito, we have an error on this. So B is which alternative is desirable for you. So when we analyze make or buy situations, we look at kung saan tayo makakatipid. So I think I will be ending this part of the discussion video for you to first analyze this make or buy case, and we will answer it on the next succeeding video. Thank you.